Hey guys, welcome to the video. On today's video, I want to talk about training your taken in hand. But before we get started, like this video, leave me a comment, subscribe if you're not already. All those things are really helpful. And if you want to support what we do here, help us continue to do it, the best place to do that is over on Patreon. So the link to our Patreon is down below. So I had someone reach out and ask about a period of training your taken in hand, kind of this intentional training period. And you read about this a lot in different domestic discipline blogs and books and sources online. And it can be really tempting to think that that is a necessary part of the process. Nothing that we talk about is necessary. They are all just options for what can work in your dynamics and what can help facilitate success for you. And this is no different. A period of intentional training is something that a lot of people do find helpful in facilitating long-term success. You don't have to find time to really focus in, zone in, take time away from your normal schedule to be able to facilitate this process of establishing the rules and the expectations. You can do that within your normal schedule, and that's not necessarily something that I would call a training period, more of just an adjustment, right? And so I definitely think that anytime you institute new rules, you need to have that adjustment period where you establish the rule, it's very clearly communicated, you give your taken in hand an opportunity to ask questions, to clarify what the expectation is, to think through any type of thought processes or pitfalls that they may experience and ask for clarification for those specific things. You want to give them an opportunity to make sure that they fully understand what is being asked of them, and then you establish the rule with accountability and you follow through with that accountability. I think that you may, depending on your taken in hand, depending on your dynamic, you may find that you can maybe give them some gentle warnings the first time. I wouldn't necessarily go beyond that. You really do want to establish that the rule is the rule and rules have consequences if they're broken. And so you really want to establish the fact that you are holding authority, that you are in charge, that you have established this rule and that she needs to take it seriously. And the only way that she can take it seriously and really start to learn where that boundary is when the rule is backed up with accountability. So if you want to give her, maybe that first time to say, hey, look, this is outside of the parameters of the rule. I'm not going to hold that accountability. I'm not going to give you that consequence this time because I know that this is new, but just know moving forward that this is the expectation and I will hold accountability next time. You can choose to do that. Again, it really depends. I know some taken in hands, I feel like myself included, actually absolutely myself included, that if Coda were to come to me and verbally reprimand me but not follow through with the consequence, I would feel very guilty and I would have a sense of needing that consequence in order to move on and have success. So really this is you have to know who your taken in hand is, you have to know their personality type, and you have to know how they're going to respond to that system. Because if they are so guilt-ridden that they didn't follow the expectation, that they broke the rule, and that they really do need the closure of the consequences in order to really start fresh and start new and move forward with success, then I would say that it's to their detriment to give a warning. So you just have to kind of decide how that's going to work for you. So anytime, like I said, anytime you are establishing new rules, new boundaries, new parameters, or even if you are just raising the standards of the rules that you already have, you have to expect this adjustment period where, your taken in hand may earn more discipline during this adjustment as they get used to where those boundaries are, as they start to adapt to the new expectations or the new level of expectation. And so you have to be prepared as a head of household before you establish those boundaries, before you start this process. You have to be prepared to follow through with that discipline and make sure that you are in a place where you can be consistent, that you can pay attention, and that you are following through every single time, because that is the easiest way to undermine your authority, is to let your taken in hand get away with breaking rules that they know you established, you know you've established, they know they broke it, you know they broke it, but there's no follow through of consequences, that is the easiest way to undermine your authority. So the easiest way to establish your authority is to do the opposite, is to follow through every single time, to be consistent, and to hold the standard to the level that you set it. So as you are going through this process, it doesn't have to take time away from your daily life. It doesn't have to take a time away from your other responsibilities. However, some couples do choose to do a period of training. Now, I think that this is synonymous with boot camps. Some people say that there is a difference between a boot camp and a training period. And honestly, if there is, I'm not seeing it. I think that they are so similar in how they function, in how they're established, in how they are set up, that in my opinion, they are the same thing. And so Coda and I have gone through boot camps in our relationship, and they've always been really beneficial to us. We've always done kind of an adapted form of boot camp because we can't necessarily take time completely away from everything that we have going on in our lives. We still have some responsibilities that we have to pay attention to throughout the day. I know some couples like to go to somewhere different other than their home to do the boot camps. Some couples do the boot camps at home, but really do kind of protect that time to be able to have full concentration on the boot camp itself. When you are first establishing your dynamic, it can be really, really helpful to do a training period or a boot camp, whatever you want to call it, to establish how things are going to change and shift in your relationship. Especially if you have had this relationship already pre-established without domestic discipline, it is really important to kind of really work through what your relationship is going to look like now that you are establishing domestic discipline. This can be a focus on rules. This can be a focus on the discipline. This can be where you do have conversations that allow for more negotiation, because it is important to take the needs, concerns, and thoughts of your taken in hand into consideration when you are setting things up, when you are making decisions. This, even though domestic discipline is head of household led and head of household ran, it is not head of household centric, meaning that the main focus of domestic discipline is not just on the head of household. It's also not just on the taken in hand. The focus has to be the relationship and what is best for both of you. And so you really do need to give your taken in hand space to talk through their concerns, talk through their thought processes, what they want to work on, what they feel is the, goals that they have. Take that into consideration and then adjust them according to what you need, what you want, and what your goals for the relationship are. Create a shared vision for your relationship, and then go through the process through a training period or a boot camp where you establish those things and you really focus in on, okay, there's an expectation that she speak to me with respect, whatever that looks like to you. If that means using an honorific like sir, if that means using specific language, if that means making sure that she's using language to ask permission rather than just inform you of what she's going to be doing, whatever it looks like to speak with respect, really focus in on paying attention to that. If you are going to establish, an expectation of obedience, then really pay attention and give her opportunities to obey, meaning be mindful to ask her to do things so that you can assess how she is displaying obedience. Is she responsive to being asked to do things? Does she follow through? Does she do them? Does she do them in the way in which you would expect? Is there an expectation that she obey immediately? All the things that you have to consider about what that looks like for you in your relationship in a way that makes sense. You have to think about those things and then really pay attention to them. If you are first starting your dynamic, I would really keep this to like 3 to 4 things that you really want to pay attention to. Most couples start with the 4 Ds, which is, dishonesty, danger, disobedience and disrespect, not in that order. Typically they're ordered a little bit differently according to priority. But I feel like if you really establish those 4 things as your foundation to begin, you're going to set yourself up for a lot of success. And so don't necessarily feel pressured to go outside of those 4 Ds or 3 or 4 priority points or pillars of priority that you choose. Don't feel pressured to go beyond that right away. You really want to get a foundation of, especially respect. I feel like respect and obedience and honesty, to be completely honest, I feel like those are the foundation of every successful domestic discipline relationship. You have to have respect, you have to have honesty, and you have to have obedience, because without those things, you're really going to struggle to establish any of the other systems that we put into place over time. And so once you establish those, then you can start to add other things in. And as you add other things in, you may find that you want to go through another period of training or another boot camp to focus on those more advanced systems or protocols or rules or structures in your relationship. You may want to do that because it is going to require a new level of just being able to pay attention, being able to assess, being able to follow through with accountability, and your taken in hand needs to be able to practice those skills and practice meeting those expectations, so that when you go back to the responsibilities of daily life, when you go back to your daily schedules and routines, that those things really are kind of jump started to be habits. And so that is my thoughts on training periods, boot camps, all those things. Are they necessary? No, you don't necessarily have to use these tools, but can they be really, really helpful, especially when you are implementing new expectations or starting your dynamic? Can they be really helpful to kind of jumpstart the process of success? I think they can. Coda and I have always had success in our dynamic and in our growth when we have gone through boot camps and really focused in on establishing just really good habits within our dynamic. We've always had really good success. We really do like taking that time to kind of focus on our relationship, focus on each other, and be able to kind of look at and assess where do we want to go from where we currently are. So I hope that that helps. I hope that you got something out of that. I hope that it helps you start thinking through these concepts for yourself. Is this something that would be helpful for you? And if so, how will that look for you? And what do you want your focus to be? So anyway, let me know what you think down below. I will talk to you guys next time.